So before the break, we talked about the second symptom. Most of us thought it was the obsession. So they just gave us some information. Anybody want to change their answer?
Phenomenon of craving.
Okay, so the first symptom is the phenomenon of craving. That's what makes you alcoholic, right? The allergy, right? And from it comes the phenomenon of craving. So that means when I put it into my system, I trigger the phenomenon of craving. That makes it virtually impossible for me to stop. Anybody need that explained?
No.
Anybody get thirstier here when they drink or use?
Yes.
Anybody want more? So we covered that. That's no longer the problem, right? The problem is I keep returning back to that in spite of my experience with that. So
Lost the power of choice.
okay, so let's go over it again. This way we go over it again. So on page 23, it said the main problem of the alcoholic centers in the mind, right? We all agree to that?
The dependence.
Hold on. We got it now. You don't get 15 answers. If the first 4 was wrong, probably the next 15 will be wrong also. But we could give you 4 more guesses. I always like people to point out as an example of what I'm talking about.
I know what he's going to think about the next hour now.
Yeah, that's why I caught a meeting. Okay, so squirrel. Okay, so then they go through here. They talk about once in a while they may tell the truth, right? Why they keep relapsing. The truth is they have really no idea. Then they say once this malady. What's a malady? Sickness. What's the second symptom? A sickness that centers where? In the mind. So the second symptom is this malady that centers in the mind. The first symptom is an allergy that centers in the body. 2 different parts of the illness. Similarly, hopeless state of mind and body. We've covered the body being the allergy. Now they're saying, hey, you got a sickness in your mind. How many people like that idea? No, we don't like that idea. In fact, I'll prove you wrong this time. Okay, so they're a baffled lot. They go on to describe. So now they start a new conversation about the sickness that centers in the mind, and they're going to expand on this idea, which is the second symptom in alcoholism. And then they talk about here the obsession. Right? There's the obsession. Somehow, someday they'll beat the game. What game?
Control drinking.
That's what most people think, but they're using the word in a different term right now. Remember they talked about earlier, if I never took a drink, so I'm okay with the idea that if I never took a drink, I never trigger the allergy. Right? So I'm not obsessed with eating pistachios anymore. I'm not obsessed with getting in the idea of getting in the rink with Tyson anymore. I know I can't take the first one because it sets in motion terrible cycle. Does that kind of make sense? So they're saying it's not the point that I eat it anymore. There's the point that there's something in my mind says it's okay to do it. Does that kind of make sense? Would that call a sickness or a malady that centers in the mind? So why are they baffled? Because they keep on drinking. There's the obsession. They'll beat the game by what? Not taking the first drink. When you listen to people share this week, listen to how many people are obsessed with the idea of keeping themselves sober based on their own experience. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. This time. Is that obsessed with self?
Yes.
Trying to fix self? That's like using 1-ply paper. It looks good on the roll, but the application of it is pretty shitty. It doesn't work well. And who knows that for sure? Only you. You're alone in there. And all you hear coming from the bathroom is crap, shit. And you try to fold it and fold it and fold it. Let's apply more self to self. It looks good, but what happens is the top stays firm while the bottom slides. It's not working out no matter how you do it, does it? And that's kind of like what they're getting at here. So we're obsessed with the fact of fixing ourselves, but we can't fix ourselves based on this problem. So they talk about everybody around us hopes the day we'll rise from our lethargy and exert our self-will. In doing what? Not taking the first one. Just don't take the first one, you'll be okay. Your problem's after you pick up. Your powerlessness is after you use. Any of this sound familiar? Just don't do the first one, you'll be okay. If you're capable of doing that, do you have the second symptom in alcoholism? That means you just have the first symptom. You know you can't drink. And AA is full of people that know they can't drink and can keep themselves sober on that basis. But AA was designed for people who suffer from the second symptom that makes you a real alcoholic. What makes you say that? So here we go. The tragic truth. So they talk about here this session is somehow, someday they'll beat the game, but they often suspect they're down for the count. How true this is, few realize. In a vague way, their family friends sense that these drinkers are abnormal. But everybody awaits the day when he'll rise. The sufferer will arise from a lethargy and exert his power will, not taking the first drink. Right? The tragic truth is that if a man be a real alcoholic, now they're using a new word in regards to the illness. If the man be a real alcoholic, the happy day may not arrive. What happy day is that? Keeping themselves sober based on their own experience. Right? Because they started a new conversation. Now, the happy day is not coming. How many people has relapsed here more than a couple times? How many people around you thought it was going to be different, hoping it was going to be different? How many of you hoped that it would be different? I hope it was going to be different each and every time. Remember, I relapsed after 11 years. Like in and out, in and out, in and out. I did 360 meetings in 90 days, got a 3-month chip. I'm out here since 85 trying to change my life. 87, trying to change my life. 89, I finally get 12-stepped into this thing. I just did 360 meetings in 90 days. I'm in 4, 12, and 12 studies. I got a 3-month chip. I'm never using again. I'm exerting myself. I'm not even thinking about using. There's nothing appealing about using whatsoever in my life. I'm not funny when I drink. There's nothing funny about my life and my story. Nobody wants me around. The only place that wants me at this time is my brother, and I'm living on a mattress in the front. The bikes are lined up. The windows are kicked out. The sheets are gray. And he's the only one that will have anything to do with me. And his wife would hear, I hear from the vent, "Is your brother going to be okay?" "Yeah, he'll be okay. Just give him a bit." He'd invite me out to his friend's place. I have a couple of years because my liver was at such a state that I was getting drunk off of 2 or 3 beers. Right? My liver wasn't producing, breaking it down anymore. I go to his friend's place trying to act nice and natural. His kids, the barbecue, everything's nice. A beautiful sunny day. His friend in the kitchen. Couldn't even tell you what they looked like. He goes to me, "Who's tougher between you and your brother?" All I remember, he's lying on the floor next. The kids are screaming. Everybody's screaming. I don't know what happened. And I'm not even really that drunk. My brother goes, "What the hell is going on?" He says, "Let's get out of here." And that's the last time they ever brought me out anywhere socially. Right? But I don't know that, right? I think everything's okay. So they talk about the tragic truth that if man be a real alcoholic, the happy day will not arrive. He has lost control. At a certain point in every drinking of every alcoholic, he passes into a state where the most powerful desire to stop, not control, stop. What's the conversation about not taking the first drink? They started a new conversation now, right? There's the obsession that based on my story, I won't do it again. Most of you people here, if you did a survey in meetings, no one's ever going to relapse again. You ever notice that? Every time, I'm not going to do it again. Well, what happened the last time? I didn't mean it then. This time I mean it. Look what I'm doing to keep me sober. What's the obsession? I'm fixing me with me. I'm stuck on Band-Aids and Band-Aids stuck on me. You ever remember that commercial? Look, I'm going to stay sober. I got a Band-Aid, right? It's like it's not working. So they kind of get into here. They talk about at a certain point in every drinking of every, he passes in the state of the most powerful desire to stop drinking is absolutely of no avail. This tragic situation has already arrived in practically every case long before it is suspected. By the time we telling you about the symptom, you've already exhibited way long ago. You're not admitting that I've become an alcoholic in AA. You're admitting to this fact that I am an alcoholic and it's been way back then. I'm a result of step one. Step one's not a result of me. That's 2 different approaches. Most people think step one is a result of them. So they try to change them. But if you're a result of step one, you're in trouble. 2 different approaches, right? Because if I produce step one, then all I need to do is change me, and then I'm no longer alcoholic. But if I'm a result of an illness that I can't fix, change, or alter, now I'm in trouble. Would that not be the case? Who's more a hoot? The person who is as a result of something, or a person that's created something? Well, the person that's a result of something. Because if I'm a result of something, I can't fix it. It means it's already been in place. By the time I become aware of it, it's kind of like, oh no. Anybody have oh no sobriety here? Oh no, I can't believe this. Oh no. So that's what they're kind of saying here, right? So they talk about the fact is that most alcoholics, for reason yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. we're unable at certain times to bring in our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and the humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We're without defense against that first drink. That's pretty hardcore, eh? When you think about that. So now we see what makes these people powerless over alcohol. We see what they're admitting to. What they're admitting to is the two symptoms of alcoholism. One, when drinking, they can't control the amounts they drink because of the allergy. Two, they can't stop drinking or not stop themselves from picking up drinking because of the malady that centers in their mind. They call this thing a malady. And then as they're going to build on those ideas, right? And so as they go through here, they start explaining the problem, the solution. And as they go through and they get into more about alcoholism, why would they talk about more about alcoholism if they've already explained the problem in great detail? They've already told you about the allergy. They've already told you about the problem that centers in the mind. They've already told you that the solution is a psychic change or spiritual experience. They already told you if you're willing to do a course of action that you'll get this thing. They've already explained an example of it in Bill's story and the doctor's opinion. Why would they want to talk more about alcoholism?
Carry the message.
Because you started thinking since they first told you about it. We start thinking. Well, that's not true. Well, let's explain it better, right? And so here's the question over lunch. So hopefully we answered the two questions. Now we know what the problem is. And we know why we keep on relapsing. So now we're going to talk about the obsession, one of the most misunderstood statements in AA, because back of it, in the doctor's opinion, they talk about the message has to have depth and weight. Most of us hear things and it makes sense, but we don't really investigate what it means because we think it covers all aspects. But when you look at the book, it's covered in detail different than the way we explain it, right? We think the obsession is a part of the first step, and it isn't a part of the first step.
Part of the second.
It's not a part of the second step either. So, how many people's brain just went, eh? Let's read something. And then we'll get into it. More about alcohol. Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from their fellows. True or false?
True.
I don't like to believe these things, especially about the malady part, that I have an illness beyond my mental ability to stop myself from doing. I've lost a choice in what I'm about to do. I'm almost kind of offended about that idea unless I look at my history and I realize this has been happening long before I suspected it, that I've been acting against my own will for years. Years of my inability to not pick up. That explains my in and out for 11 years because of the malady. It's not because I didn't want to get sober or stay sober. It's because I suffer from an illness beyond my ability to see, feel, and touch when it's happening. Just like Bill's story. It makes sense. Most of us have been unwilling to admit we're real alcoholics, meaning I'm beyond human aid. I'm obsessed with the idea that I could fix me based on me if I just manage well. If I just go to the right meetings, do the right things, right? Be nice. They'll be okay. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers has been characterized by countless attempts to prove we could drink like other people. So, these people who are trying to drink like other people, have they done step one? They really have a problem, do they? Because they think they're still in that stage of, if I could just drink with impunity. I'm not like this. See, I can get away with drinking 10 or 15 times before something happens, but every time something happens, I'm drinking. So I have a real hard understanding. Look, I got 3 months before. I got a year before. I got 5 months before. I got 2 weeks before. They told us we can get periods of sobriety based on ourselves. That's abstinence. That's not recovery. A lot of people mistaken abstinence for recovery. Most people in the fellowship of AA has experienced abstinence. They haven't experienced recovery. Right? To recover from something means you have a different experience than the one you've always had. Our experience has always been the same. Come in, I'm not going to do that again. Look at everything I'm doing not to do it again. Oh my God, I did it again. Right? Because we have an experience. We've been to the airport, but we haven't been on the plane. We've been to AA, but I haven't experienced what's offered in AA. But I don't know that because I haven't experienced it. Right? So they talk about here. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking career had been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. Drink with impunity, right? So the doctor, the idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is a great obsession of every abnormal drinker. What is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker? I could control and enjoy my drinking. Have these people done step one who are still obsessed with the idea of controlling and enjoy your drinking?
No.
Have they done step one?
No.
They haven't done step one. So if you're obsessing with the idea of still being able to control and enjoy your drinking, you haven't done step one yet. How many people's brain just went, eh? What's the great obsession?
To be okay.
To be okay. So, right? So I haven't done step one yet. There's a lot of people in AA that haven't done step one yet because they don't understand. They say, oh, I haven't thought about drinking. The obsession is left. You don't understand step one. Because the obsession should leave once you do step one. The reason you have an obsession still because you haven't done step one. So, it didn't say that I didn't think about it. Right? When I walk in a grocery store, I see some pistachios. Based on truth, I don't pursue it. Right? I still think about it. I see them sitting in the cupboard. I go, The truth is, every time I go for it, I love pistachios. But I can no longer afford the effect it has on me. The consequences are too dear. Based on truth, I stop myself from pursuing it. Right? So I know the truth about my situation. Now, in alcoholism, that doesn't mean it's able to keep me sober. Why? Because I have a malady that centers in my mind. That's beyond my ability to see, feel, and touch when it's happening. It's a sickness. It's two different things. One I could see, the obsession I could see and do something about. This other thing that happens in my mind, I have no control or power over. Once it happens, it happens. It's like the difference between talking about diarrhea and having diarrhea. One you could talk about and do something about because you're not experiencing it. One, when you're experiencing it, there's nothing you can do about it when it's happening. I don't know if anybody's ever experienced that. All the willpower in the world ain't stopping you from about what's to happen. May sound funny, but that's like alcoholism, right? It's like afterwards you think, well, my stomach isn't turning anymore. I feel kind of all right. It's been 4 hours since I went. Maybe I can go on this marathon. Remember that old Imodium commercial? The guy, the donkey outfit, and the guy in the back end of the donkey goes to the guy in front of the. You have taken the Imodium, right? like it's very apparent to the guy in the back, hanging on to the guy in front who had the dysentery problem, that he has a solution to his problem before he participates in the thing. That's common sense. So here they talk about here. We'll leave with that idea. The great obsession, right? And then they're going to talk about the solution afterwards. We're going to have lunch. How long does lunch go for? So we'll be back here at 1?
2, maybe a little bit break.
Okay, 2?
2, yeah.
2? Okay, everybody. And then